Let me start the recording here. It was just our introduction primarily. As a matter of fact, as you probably get the gist, these first couple of weeks are just introductory to the environment, to the class, to me, all that. And so if you have any concerns, please let me know. You can send me an email or just unmute or type in the chat. All right, so what I would like to do before we get started, because I see that a few of you have not logged in using your credentials that I sent you. First, I want to ask, did you all receive the credentials I sent out last week?
I did.
I did too.
Okay. All right. So good. You will be using those specifically when we go through the labs next week, starting next week. It's important that you remember this. When you log in to test out, you'll be using your own credentials. And as you all noticed that those of you that have joined the class, there's some, actually some steps that I was not aware of. So yes, we're all learning as we go. So what I'd like to do is just walk through one of the enrollment process for test out. So I'm gonna select someone to be the volunteer, and Jacqueline, since you're not enrolled yet, I'm gonna use your credentials. So basically, you take your credentials, your username, and I think yours is J. Navarro 2.
Yes.
All right. And then I won't say your password.
Okay.
All right, so go ahead, navigate to testout.com. You can just type that in your browser or whatever, and it'll take you to this login LabSim page. And go ahead and put in your credentials. Generally, because I use two-factor and all types of authentication, I will actually save on my browser, and that's what this is. And I'm not going to do that for Jacqueline's credentials. So that, so that'll take you to this basically landing page, and you should be on the My Products tab, and you'll have two sections. And all you need to do at this point is click the Enroll button, and then it'll ask you for your instructor's name. Just put in Dwight, because I'm the only Dwight that's instructing. Click on the magnifying glass for the search. I will come up. You want to click the select button. It will bring up our class, which is this MCC June 22nd. That was our start date last week. So, and then you want to click on the enroll button. Jacqueline, I'm gonna let you do that. And once you click on the enroll button, it will take you to our class. You will notice that none of the labs that we went through last week, that we're going through this week, will be on there, because this is kind of our test week. But everything that we go through starting next Monday, you need to log in with your credentials, because that's how I check your attendance, your engagement, your progress, and essentially your grade in the class. So I do want to just because I want to check to make sure your credentials are okay. Those of you that did not log in last week, I want to give you the opportunity to log in now and go ahead and enroll in our class. And I can check that on my little enrollment tracker. So just take a few minutes if you haven't. I know most of you have. Go ahead and log in so that I can see that you're a part of our class. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And basically, what I can do, I can make sure, because this is our class, it's MCC June 22nd. And when I click on that, I get an enrollment roster. And hopefully you won't have to activate any of the products. Supposedly that's all done for you. But I do want to make sure you all are showing up on my enrollment list. So I have 9 of you here now. So just go ahead and take the time to do that before we get started on our labs.
Am I good on that then? This is Danielle, by the way.
Danielle, let's see.
It looks like it says yes on there, so it looks like I'm good.
All right. Of course, the refresh didn't work. Why are you not showing up on my list?
Second one.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, your name is too long.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so we have 11 of you now. Anyone else? Let's see. Matt, Jacqueline, good job. Salvador, Lilot, Salami, Nalba, Stacy. 12. Let's see, who are we missing? Let me check my. Let's see, Ralph is there, Danielle, Angel, Chiquita, Matt, Robert, Jacqueline, Lilot, Salvador, Melba, Stacy, Costa. I think we're all here, I think. So who's not here? Does everyone see their name on my little enrollment list? 13. I think that's it. That's all. Great. Good job. So now I can track what you do. Starting, remember, you're not going to use this login. So go ahead and log off of this login right now before we get into the labs, because as you can tell, you don't have access to the fundamental course. And use that GDavid student account to actually log in so we can run through the second week of labs. All right. Is everyone okay? I have everyone here, so I think you're all okay. All right. Oh.
Melba, she emailed me and she says that she's waiting for you to accept her into the Zoom.
Oh, well, yeah. There's too many things for me to do. Oh, she should have emailed me too. Okay. Oh, she did. All right. We just received her email. She emailed you first. That's fine. And Angel did too. All right. Now, sorry about that. I was ignoring you, Melba and Angel. Are you both here now?
Yes, here.
Thank you. Glad you made it. Melba, are you here?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Last, I connected. Oh, blimey. I had a
Okay.
problem.
Yes.
I'm sorry for that, sir.
No, it's all right. I did not let you into the class. I have to allow you into the class. So.
Yeah.
All right. So we are taking. Okay.
Good evening.
Pardon?
Good evening.
Good
Hi.
evening. Hi. Okay, we were taking time just to make sure everyone has logged in using their credentials. I know, Angel, you're good, and Melba, you both are good. So I just wanted to make sure you're all actually logged in to test out with your own credentials.
Yep, I have a problem with my connection, and I can't connect my computer, and now I'm using through cell phone and everything. I have panic.
All right. Well, That's okay for this week.
Uh,
Next week, I definitely need you to have your connection and all that. But so as I was saying, this week you are still going to use the GDavid student credentials to follow me through the labs. But you're all logged in with your credentials, so make sure you log off because you won't be able to access these labs with your own credentials, as you all discovered last week. So that GDavid, the GDavid student credentials are the ones that you need to log in and follow along with the labs that we'll go through today. Does everyone understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Great. So our labs today, we're going to move on to networking. That'll be a lot of fun. You get to learn about how the networks work. Let me bring up my lab. But we will start with just a video, something that you're very, very curious about. What is the internet? How did it start? All that. Yes, I was around when it first started back in the 80s when it was just dial-up modems and only a few people could even access it. But so let's essentially our first video for this lesson will be just a look at what the internet's all about. All right, so let's take a look at that.
Let's talk about the internet. Now, you're probably using the internet right now to stream this video. You already know that the internet gives you access to an endless amount of data and information. It lets you send and receive data on a global system of interconnected devices. In this video, we'll describe the internet in terms of networking. As its name implies, the internet is an internetwork or a connection between networks. The internet is a collection of many different networks owned by many different entities that all share information and communicate together. The internet connects devices all around the world. There are parts of the internet that are managed by large corporations and other parts that are managed by individuals, but no one entity controls the entire internet. We may have a city here and a city here and a city here, and they all share a common way of connecting so that they can route signals between each other. At each spot, we'll have one or more ISPs, or internet service providers. ISPs don't manage the entire internet. Instead, they manage an access point to the internet. If you think of the internet as a big freeway, then ISPs would be the entity that manages the on-ramp to the freeway. They're responsible for building the on-ramp and keeping it maintained and open, but they're not responsible for the internet itself. The ISP is responsible for allowing both individual users as well as companies with large networks to connect to the internet. In this scenario, there's typically a security boundary that separates your network from the public internet. You may have devices on your network that access network servers, such as web servers and email servers. They're connected to the internet, but other computers that are on the internet cannot come in and contact devices within your network. As you can see, this creates a division of sorts between networks. Public networks share all devices and they're freely available. On the other hand, devices on a private network can access public network devices, but they themselves can only be accessed by other devices within the private network. Now, there may be exceptions. For example, in this network, we might have a particular server that we do want to make available to the public, such as a server that hosts a website. In order to do this, we would actually need to place our web server outside of this security boundary so that devices in other locations can reach this website through the internet. In essence, when I do this, I've made part of my network public, or created a small public network, if you will, that's connected to the larger internet. A related term that you might hear from time to time is intranet. An intranet is kind of like a miniature internet. It's a private network, not a public one, but it uses many of the same technologies that are used on the internet, such as websites and email. An organization's intranet may or may not be connected to the public internet. A security boundary prevents devices on the internet from accessing devices within the intranet. So, in summary, the internet is a large public internetwork, while an intranet is a private network that uses internet technologies but is only available to users within a particular organization. In this video, we describe the internet in terms of networking. We also compared and contrasted the internet with private intranets.
All right. Any questions about the internet? It's quite an elaborate collection, very robust network. Most enterprises or private corporations use it or have an active intranet, and basically it is private and separated from the internet, which is kind of the global network area that you all are connected to, and it supports us streaming this class. Any questions? All right. So our first lab for this evening is 2.1.13, and that's copying files to OneDrive. Just to iterate something, hopefully you've all navigated through the test out environment, because this will be very important when you're on your own doing assignments. You notice that there's several, resources in here for each of the components. Make sure you understand, if you have any questions about, facts and labs and videos, every video has a, essentially, what am I trying to say? It has documents that will iterate the verbiage and the text. And there's ways that if you want to review anything in the video, anything in here, you click on it, you right click on it, and we can go over that, especially when things become a little bit more complicated. All right, so let's move right into our first lab. How many of you know what OneDrive is or heard of it?
I have.
You have? How many of you have heard of cloud technologies or cloud databases or cloud storage or anything that has to do with the cloud? I know that's becoming common language now. And basically this is the higher or the more usefulness around the internet. Basically, you're taking storage and applications and everything from your local machine and having it run somewhere, on a higher level of the internet, which is where the cloud has come from. So OneDrive is the Microsoft tool for storage, documents, files, and basically, if you store it to OneDrive, you can access it from anywhere, anytime, as long as you have the correct credentials. So in this lab, the premise is you're working on a research paper that is due soon in your class, in your Latin 101, our favorite Latin 101 class from last week. You've been using your desktop system in your dorm room. Not many of you are in dorm rooms, but that's all right. We'll substitute from your home since that's the common location. Matt asked in the chat, is OneDrive available on mobile devices also? And the answer is yes. OneDrive is all. The mobile devices in the browser, your mobile device or your browser is smart enough that it will access, and it'll even open, because all of the Microsoft applications have a cloud-based format, so you can actually view your documents on your smartphone. So yes, OneDrive is accessible via your mobile devices. Good question. All right, so to do this, where was I? However, you need to do some additional research in the library, and this happens often. When we were on campus, many of the students would have to go to several locations, classrooms, etc. So to complete your paper, so to do this, you need to be able to work on a document no matter where you are. And that's the whole premise. You can go to any place and have access to your file because it's stored in this cloud. So in this lab, you need to copy the Ipsum doc, is just your test doc, from your documents folder on your desktop system to the documents folder in your Microsoft OneDrive account. And yes, it is tied to an account, and generally you'll create an account and all that. If you haven't already, Microsoft will force you to create an account for their services. And that's actually a good idea because you will have access to all of their cloud services, and there's quite a few. All right, so let's get started. And this lab is pretty easy. So, all right. So here we're at our desktop. So how do we access OneDrive? Who can provide a guess? Where do we start this lab? How do we start? Well, we can use our favorite search, but what is it? It doesn't really come up with anything that has to do with OneDrive. Right?
Usually Word has it integrated into it now.
Right, so Salvador is correct. Usually if you've used OneDrive and you're on a Windows system, it will integrate it to your File Explorer. Remember, your File Explorer is this nice little folder here. So if you open up your folder, and lo and behold, what do you see here? And by default, Windows will have a OneDrive. If you install Microsoft Office, generally, depending on, well, even with Windows 10 Home, it will have a OneDrive account. You basically have to click on it to enable it. It will ask you to log in, and basically it'll create that account for you in the cloud. And see the little clouds here. So it is a part of your File Explorer. So it's simply the same practice of copying the file from your source destination, would be your documents folder, into the cloud. And you can expand this and see that it has, you know, documents, pictures, public, typical Microsoft. So that said, if you click on your documents folder, remember this is your documents folder, that documents, not this documents, and open that up. So just a double click, and there's our file. Now remember, there's several methods to copy this into your OneDrive documents folder. You can right click and copy, and then open up your OneDrive documents folder. You see in the breadcrumbs here, it states we're at the OneDrive documents. Right click anywhere in the area itself and paste. Now we have the little representation of a copy. You saw that generally it had this little status kind of icon, and then the status icon became a green check, which means that you've successfully copied it over the internet to the cloud location. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward, right? All right, so if we go ahead and score this lab, yay, we did our copy. And OneDrive is that easy and that powerful because that file is now saved. Even if those servers go down, and Microsoft has several redundancies and they do all types of backups, you will never lose that file. It is available to you no matter where you are. So there you go. Any questions? All right. So let's go on to our next video, which is essentially, let's look at the web itself, the web, internet, synonymous. Essentially, whenever you hear someone call the internet the web, they're really referring to, I mean, all of the things that you can do on the web. And there's several technologies, and this video will give you a snippet of that. So here we go.
The terms World Wide Web and Internet are often used interchangeably. In this video, you'll learn why they're really not the same thing. The web is just one of many technologies and services that use the internet. Other internet technologies often have nothing to do with the web. The internet typically refers to the vast collection of networking hardware and physical computing devices that allow the exchange of information. These interconnected computing devices follow strict rules or internet protocols to maintain efficient global communication and data integrity. The World Wide Web, invented in 1989 by an English scientist named Tim Berners-Lee, refers to interlinked digital content or information that's delivered over the internet, usually through a web browser. Popular web browsers include Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, and Apple Safari. In addition to web browsers and websites, components of the web include hypertext links between documents, URLs that uniquely identify web pages, and search engines that provide efficient ways of finding information on the web. While many web pages simply display static content, web browsers can also run complex computer programs. These programs are known as web applications or web apps. Examples include webmail, productivity software such as Google Docs or Google Sheets, multiplayer video game sites, and social media apps such as Facebook and Twitter. Web applications typically exchange information with special computers on the internet called web servers. So, in summary, when we talk about the web, we're talking about content such as text, images, and streaming video that is delivered through a web browser. The web uses the physical devices and infrastructure that we call the internet. Now let's look at some other technologies that use the internet. You probably already know that not all devices on the internet are physically connected to each other through cables. Wi-Fi is a technology that provides wireless internet connectivity through devices called wireless routers. A Wi-Fi network uses radio waves to transmit data within a particular area referred to as a hotspot. Email is an example of communications technology that may or may not use the web, but it'll almost always use the internet. If you access your email through a web browser, you're using a webmail application on the web. But if you've installed a mail application such as Microsoft Outlook on your personal computer or on your phone, you might not be using the web at all. Your app can maintain its own internet connection. Another technology that uses the internet is called voice or video over IP. VoIP lets people make voice phone calls over digital data lines using internet protocols. With VoIP, phone calls are made through a network connection rather than through a standard phone line. When you make the call, it's converted into digital data and sent through the network or over the internet. The Internet of Things refers to the network of physical devices that are connected to the internet and capable of communicating and sharing data through sensors, network connectivity, barcodes, QR codes, and other technologies. The Internet of Things is made up of devices such as refrigerators, thermostats, streetlights, and environmental tracking systems. These devices all use the internet to share their data and often allow people to control them remotely. Another example of making use of internet technology is an intranet. Many businesses and academic institutions set up their own intranet, which is like a miniature internet. It's a private network, not a public one, but it uses many of the same technologies that are used on the internet, such as websites and email. An organization's intranet may or may not be connected to the public internet. A security boundary prevents devices on the internet from accessing the devices within the private intranet. The web is just one of many technologies that use the vast system of interconnected devices we know as the internet. By becoming more familiar with technologies such as the Internet of Things, voice over IP, and business intranets, it's easier to see the distinction between the web as a system of accessible digital content and the internet as a collection of physical hardware and protocols that keep them interconnected.
All right. Yeah, that's generally just to let you know that, yeah, she's distinguishing between the internet and the web, as one is essentially the applications, the other one is how it's connected. Generally, it is okay to use those interchangeably as long as you understand which is which. And because there's so many private intranets out there now, and those are very, very similar, but they're not interconnecting the World Wide Web, which is essentially the internet. All right. Any questions, comments? We're all good so far? Okay, we'll go through another lab and then just have a quick break because I want you all to be done. Well, we still have an hour, so we have plenty of time. So we'll go through another lab. The lab is another short lab, and then we will have a quick break. And our next lab is 2.2.11, which is clearing browser cache. This one is actually very, very useful. Hopefully you'll use this often to help your your browsing to be more efficient, it will speed things up. If you have a tremendous history when your browser's loaded, then it can cause a problem. Although I can tell you now with these smart browsers that you all have now, it's not as big as a problem. And with essentially with the robust speeds and bandwidth of internet service now, but you should do this periodically. I normally I run a little program to clear my cache weekly because I do a lot of browsing. All right, let's go into the lab. So within this lab, you're going to use Google Chrome for your web browser on your desktop. You're concerned about privacy and security while surfing. You're particularly concerned about exploits, which is, I guarantee you, being in cybersecurity as long as I have been, this is the one place where it's easy to pull passwords, identification parameters, just from your browsing history. So you have to be very, very careful with that. So our task is to clear all of Chrome browsing data, including browsing history, download history, cookies and other site data, cache images and files. Cache, in case just give you a definition, cache is just history or stored. Essentially, it's another reference to that. Passwords and other sign-in data, autofill form data, site settings, hosted app data. All right, so let's go. All right, here's our desktop, and let's go ahead and launch Chrome. As you know, Chrome is the Google marquee browser, has been for a while. So we are going to go into the Chrome settings, and our ellipsis or three dots or hamburger or whatever here on the right side of your browser at the top. You want to click on that. And if you scroll down here, there's a settings, well, that's the harder way. You do have a history selection. So if you click on history, actually that's disabled. So let me go through that again. So click on our settings, go into history. It will actually give you the history allocation, and just click on the history. Now, and here we have at least clear browsing history. If you click on that link, it will bring up your clear browsing history pop-up. And basically the way it's set, it will clear the last hour. But if we look at our lab, we want to clear the browsing data all time. So clear all of it. So this is a drop down. And so you got last 24 hours, last 7 days, 4 weeks, and then all time. Make sure you select that. And so we do have browsing history, cookies, and other site data, cache images, and files. Now that's the top three in here. So to get to the remainder, yes, we just have to go into advanced. That will provide the remaining items as far as clearing. So I'll just scroll down. So in here we have browsing history, download history, yes, cookies and other site data, yes, cache images, and files less than 320 meg. Yes, that is checked. We want to also clear password and other sign-in data, so make sure you check that. We want to clear autofill form data. Check that. We want to clear site settings, right? Check that. And we want to clear hosted app data, right? And it is actually telling you have 5 apps that are using, hosted data or that are storing hosted data, right? So make sure all of those attributes or components are checked and you're selected all time. And then you just want to clear data. And it will take you to the settings, back to the settings page itself. And generally on your regular system, that'll take, even after a day, that'll take a few seconds because it actually goes in to all of your backend parameters, all your services, et cetera, and make sure the data is cleared. All right, any questions? Do we all remember how we got to our settings, our Chrome browser settings? And yeah, Chrome is relatively easy. Oh, question?
I don't have a question, but I have more like a comment. There's an easier shortcut method, especially when you have multiple browser tabs open. It's just doing a Control Shift Delete.
Yes, well, yes, absolutely. And what I would recommend, because that brings up an interesting point, if you're ever working on something like settings, you don't want to have multiple tabs open. That's kind of a danger. And you have to be very careful of that, but I know sometimes you need to have multiple tabs. But essentially, if you're working on just something like this, changing your settings. But yes, Shift Control Alt Delete when you have the browser open. And it does. We will go into shortcut keystrokes as we go further into the course. But yes, thank you. Was that Jacqueline?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. Great. All right, so let's score our lab. And we got our 9 out of 9. Good job. And we're done. All right, so we're kind of halfway through our experience now. Let's take a 15-minute break. Even though we've only been gone 45 minutes, that's fine. We have tons of time. The last 2 labs are pretty easy. So let's take 15 minutes, stretch, get something to eat, go to the bathroom, and we will be back at 6:30. Yes, 6:30. That's a little bit more than 15 minutes. All right, and if you have any questions, just please let me know, okay? Is that all right? Are we good?
Sir. Yep, we're good.
All right. Okay, see you at 6:30. Okay, start recording.
Nice beer.
Oh, you like that, huh?
The quarantine beer.
Yep, I'm gonna do that again.
Why not?
Yeah, I shaved it off, but I decided, yeah,
Give it another try.
give it another try.
There you go.
All right. How are you today?
Good, good. Busy, running around,
Oh, yeah.
trying to keep up.
Yep. All right. Okay, so hopefully Adam will join us at 7:10. I don't even know if he had the link to our class, but I just sent him that during our break. All right, so let's continue our lesson plan for today. We're going to watch another video. This one is going to be on networking devices and interfaces. Now we're moving from the internet to actual networking devices within a corporation or even your home network. You can essentially outline some of the devices within this video. So without further ado, here we go. And you all can see my screen, right? I forgot to check. Yes. Yeah, okay.
In this video, we're going to look at a few basic networking devices and interfaces. The first device we'll look at is called a modem, which is short for modulator demodulator. Signals that arrive at your network from an internet service provider, whether through fiber, cable, or phone line, can't be directly understood by your computer. Instead, the signal passes through a modem, which translates it into a series of electrical ones and zeros that travel through a copper wire to your computer. To upload data to the internet, the modem does the opposite, turning ones and zeros into light, cable, or phone signals. Next, let's look at a router. A router's job is to send signals from one network to another. When you send an email, the signal travels through a wire or radio signal to your network's router. The router sees that data is addressed to a different network and forwards it on to the ISP. Then, a router at the ISP looks at the data, sees where it's supposed to go, and sends it to the router of the network where the recipient's mail server is stored. Now let's look at a switch. Similar to the way a router transfers data between networks, switches transfer data between devices within a network. Every computer on the network is connected to the switch. Whenever a computer sends a signal, or when a signal comes in from the router, the switch looks at the data, and if it recognizes the receiving computer as another device on the switch, it sends it directly to that computer. If it doesn't recognize the data, it sends it off to the router. Another device you'll probably see is called a wireless access point. Conceptually, an access point works in a similar way to a switch. It recognizes which device should receive the signal, then forwards the data to where it needs to go. The main difference is that they use Wi-Fi technology to connect devices to the network wirelessly, as opposed to a switch, which uses wires. Last, let's look at a firewall. As amazing as the internet is, it's full of malicious people and software that you want to keep away from your computer. A firewall checks each bit of data that tries to enter your network. If it decides it's safe, it passes it along. If it thinks it's dangerous, it rejects the data. By this point, you may be wondering if you need to buy all this equipment to connect your home network to the internet. The answer is yes, but actually no. For a small network like you typically install in a home, most people buy one of these. These are usually called wireless routers or Wi-Fi routers, but in reality, they're a combination of all the previous devices in one. We just call them routers because saying modem, router, switch, access point, firewalls is a bit of a mouthful. Let's end this video by talking about a few common plugs and interfaces you'll see in a typical network. This is called a register jack 11 interface, or RJ11. It has 4 pins and a clip to hold the plug into a wall socket. RJ11 is used to connect to a plain old telephone line. In a DSL network, this interface connects the modem to the wall jack. A much more common interface is this one, RJ45. These jacks have 8 pins and are a little wider than RJ11 connectors. RJ45 is used to create a wired connection between a computer and a network. Bluetooth is a technology used to create wireless connections between computers and devices. Bluetooth uses radio signals to connect devices at a short range, usually no more than 10 meters. Another technology to be aware of is near-field communication, or NFC. NFC uses specially encoded tags that respond in a specific way when scanned by a radio frequency reader. If you've ever held your smartphone near a scanner to pay for an item in a store, you've used NFC. In this video, we learned about several networking devices. We talked about modems, routers, switches, wireless access points, and firewalls. We also discussed a few common interfaces, RJ11, RJ45, Bluetooth, and NFC.
Great. All right, interesting stuff. So how many of you can locate your router, your wireless router, access point, firewall, etc., in your home network? Do you know where it is? Do you know what it's used for? You should have a good idea now. Well, lo and behold, mine just happens to be right in my little space here. And yeah, we'll take a little tour of my abode because you're all very curious. My space is not any different than yours. There's my device. Let's see, can you see it? And there's an RJ11 connection, and there's also RJ45. So this device actually, this router access point, we just have the one unit now. Basically, you'll have an ISP rep come into your home, and generally, they will connect that either to a cable, you know, or to a phone line. Mine is actually still connected to an old existing phone line, essentially where it gets its power from, or at least the communication power. And we'll talk about that in detail when we go into networking. But how about you? Did you locate your router? You know what it looks like? You know what those flashing lights are? Yes, we are going to talk about that in detail as we move through the course and get into the networking side of it. All right. So let's move on to our next lab. It's 2.2.13, and that lab, I love the way we jump around, is 2.2. It's configure browser settings. Oh, we were just in there. But we're going to go back to our browser and we're going to do some configuration. All right. So let's go ahead and start the lab. So we're going to use Google Chrome. And now we are concerned about privacy and security. And just to divulge a little bit, I do work in cybersecurity quite a bit. And yes, currently with the pandemic and stay at home and all that, we're in a high vulnerability stage where there's tons of hacking going on. So make sure as you learn and go through this lab, make sure you're actually going through your browser that you use, and make some of these settings changes because it'll definitely protect you from all that's happening now. This is a hacker's dream because just about everyone has a service at home, and now a lot of you are working from home probably, and you don't have a protected network, or at least you haven't gone into to make any of these security changes. So we're going to investigate that. All right, so let's see. So you still want want the computer to access pop-ups, for your legitimate site, such as your bank sites. And banks usually try not to use a lot of pop-ups because those are all very vulnerable. But it's becoming a little more secure, but you want to secure it on your end. That's a whole purpose. So you also want to block location tracking and third-party cookies. I haven't really addressed this. How many of you know what cookies are, other than the ones that you bake in your oven or buy at the store? What is a cookie? Bonus points if you can provide a definition of a browser cookie. Oops. Inadvertently stopped my share. Trying to find the chat. Yikes. So no one's answering. No one knows what a cookie is. Someone usually has a smart aleck answer, chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin. Cookies are essentially used by most websites, and it's primarily used for data tracking, data storage. If a site says it's using cookies, you can assure that it's used to gather data and store data. And that's what the cookies are used for. There are other usages, but primarily on the web, that's what cookies are used for. So if you hear the word cookies, don't think chocolate chip or raisin. you have to put your IT hat on and think data storage, data tracking. Right, that was just a side lesson. And we will get into that more as we go into networking. Okay, so in the lab, we're going to change some settings in Chrome. We're going to configure the pop-up blocker to block all pop-ups and redirects. Question coming through the chat, or let's see. Melba says cookies are files, they're stored data for specific websites. Yes, thank you, that is correct. You get a star, you and Salvador get stars, bonus points. You can use them later when you start submitting your homework. All right, we're going to remove the, the doctor, whatever that logger.com site is, site that is currently allowed to use pop-ups. We're going to configure a new exception to allow pop-ups from mybank.com. We're going to block all location trackers in the browser, leave the site exceptions in place. We're going to block third-party websites from saving and reading cookie data, which is pretty important. And we're going to block the virus clickjacking4u.org and darkwebphishing.org sites that are currently allowed to use cookies. Phew, that sounds like a lot. And of course, it pushes us to our desktop and says, have at it. So obviously you want to launch your browser, Chrome. So now what? Who wants to walk me through this? Probably we're going to go into settings again, right? I'm thinking we are actually going to access settings in our Chrome. Okay, now we're here. So there should be a section that talks about security or something like that. Or, man, is that in here? Yeah, no one wants to speak up. Stacy says, hit advance.
Should be at the bottom if you scroll down.
Let's see advance. Okay, you're right. So at the bottom, there's an advance extension, and it will bring you to your privacy and security section. And it goes to the languages, downloads, printing, accessibility, system, etc. But back up here, we have sync, we have allow Chrome sign in, allow sites to check if payment methods are saved, etc. So we want to go into
Under site settings.
Pardon me?
It should be under site settings, those choices.
Right. So now who is that? Stacy?
Yeah.
Okay. So Stacy's jumping ahead. So yes, under site settings, if you click on that, then yes, we have essentially all that we need to configure as far as our settings. Cookies, location, camera, microphone, everything in here. But the first thing we want to look for is pop-up blockers. So if you scroll down, look in here, there's a pop-ups and redirects. And we're having those allowed across the board, which is what that setting is. So if you click on that, it'll open up your pop-ups and redirects. So what we need to do is configure the pop-up blocker to block all pop-ups and redirects. So right now it says allowed, right? And there's a switch. So basically we want to turn that switch off. You can click it, you can drag it. But now, as you see, Chrome tells you that that is recommended. And I would guarantee you that you want to keep that allowed off. You want to have it unblock. So now we want to remove the DrEvilKeylogger.com, that's a good name, site that is currently allowed to use pop-ups. And you see you have blocked. These are the sites that are blocked, which are none right now, and allowed. So to remove that, basically, we want to click on our little, essentially choice icon, like a drop-up, and basically it gives you block, edit, remove. And we can simply remove it from our allow section. So now that's gone. So we want to configure a new exception to allow pop-ups for mybank.com. Since this is your bank, so basically what we want to do is we want to add, not in block, but we want to add to allow. Just click on the add button. We want to type in our website, and usually you can type in just a very generic URL, and that's your universal, addressing language, or basically it's the address that you use in your browser that browser recognizes. So you can just type in like mybank.com or chase.com or whatever, Wells Fargo, and it will recognize it. And then just click the add button, and it will show you that now this website, now if it was not a valid website, Chrome is actually smarter if it will actually indicate. So now that is part of our, we allow pop-ups from this banking site, all right? All right, so our next bullet, block all locations tracking in the browser, leave the site exception in place. Well, that's probably something back in settings, right? So it's easier just, you can either do the back button or go back to the settings and look for your particular aspect. So we're in privacy and security, right? And so we want to block all locations, all location tracking. So if you look in here, okay, so who can tell me where location tracking might be located in here?
Is it under downloads?
Is it under downloads? Is that a question, or you're
Well,
very?
'cause I see location, so under downloads.
So is that correct? Our simulation says no. Okay,
It's
so
Under
we're
the
at,
same place under site settings.
is that Stacy? I'm
Yes.
recognizing your voices now. All right, so under site settings. So now what?
Location.
Aha, now we have location. And you click here, now we can modify our location tracking. And our instruction says block all location tracking in the browser, leave the site exceptions in place. Once again, right here, it's either ask before assessing, that's recommended, but we're gonna block everything, all right? But we're going to leave the exceptions, which even if you select this block, if you have exceptions, the exceptions will be met. So it'll still allow these locations to be tracked, but everything else is going to be blocked, which is, although the recommendation from Chrome is that it'll prompt you. That's actually a better way if you do a lot of web surfing. You do want to keep it on ask, because it'll actually ask, and then you can simply say yes or no. But for our lab, we're just going to block everything. So we're going to block all location tracking. Okay. Now the next instruction, block third-party website from saving and reading cookie data. So saving and reading cookie data, where would that be?
This is Jackie. It'd be in the same spot under if you hit the back button,
Uh-huh. Yep.
and then it would be under cookies.
Back to our cookies, chocolate chip, please. And we want to block third-party websites from saving and reading cookie data. So you scroll down, here's a block third-party cookies. We want to turn it on. Remember the nice little, when it's highlighted blue, that means it's on. When it's dormant or off. So that's preventing third-party websites, which is very important, from reading cookie data. All that does is prevent third-party websites. The third party is something that you don't access directly. you access the website and it actually launches other websites, and those are third-party websites, is actually pretty common. And basically you're preventing them from accessing any of your data. Good. And the last, we want to block the virus clickjacking4u.org and dark web phishing org sites that are currently allowed to use cookies. And if you see here, we have our two websites, our virus clickjacking4u.org and our dark web phishing. So we want to block those from using cookies. So once again, we and this is interesting. Once you click on block, it'll move it up to the block location, so you can easily view that website is now blocked from reading cookies. And just do it with the other one, the virus and sites that are named that, you probably don't want to have those reading cookies. The dark web. How many of you know what the dark web is? You probably don't know that the dark web consists of about, and this usually surprises people. You're looking at the regular web, but the activity on the web, as far as hacking and all the deviousness and even some of the usefulness, it comprises of about 75% of the web activity. 75%. So all of the hacking, all the things that are going on underneath on the dark web, and it's it can be dark, it can be informative. If you're not really aware of it and you haven't accessed it, I would stay away from it. It can be very dangerous. As a matter of fact, from my experience, there's certain websites that are tied directly to the dark web, and yes, it is a real thing. It's not some type of fantasy or a virtual location. It's a real place where there's specific browsers. And it's not necessarily, this is where the hackers, this is where they reside. This is where both the white hat and black hat, and we're not going to get into cybersecurity, but essentially this is where all of the government organizations, they have their cybersecurity specialists searching the dark web for information about cyber terrorists, etc. All right, enough about that. All right, so we satisfied all of our conditions, right? Any questions? Okay, I can't overstate the importance of essentially these practices with your browser. Well, let's go ahead and score your lab. Yay, we did well. Hopefully you will utilize this, periodically. Check your cookies, check what your pop-ups. It's very important to keep yourself safe. Good job. All right, we're buzzing right along. Let's go ahead and knock out our last two aspects. We have a ton of time, but I want to make sure. All right, so our next video, our last video, 246, we'll discuss wireless, wireless standards. And this is something that, essentially, any IT professional will need to know what the standards are, what's happening. And it's actually useful, especially if you want to be in the IT, to have knowledge of this information about wireless technologies. All right, here we go.
For a network to function, all the connected devices need to follow the same set of rules or protocols. Many of these protocols are defined by the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IEEE. The IEEE 802 family of standards deals mostly with local area networks, and the protocols for wireless networks are found in Section 11. A wireless local area network that conforms to 802.11 standards is called a Wi-Fi network. As technology has improved, so have 802.11 protocols. Over time, they've improved in several areas, and this video will focus on 4: frequency, attenuation, speed, and security. Wi-Fi signals are sent using radio frequencies. Some standards, like 802.11b and G, used a 2.4 gigahertz band. This band has 11 channels. Unfortunately, most of these channels overlap with each other. The only non-overlapping channels are 1, 6, and 11. With only 3 usable channels, it was common for devices using the same network to fight over bandwidth and interfere with each other. To solve this, newer protocols such as 802.11n and AC started using a 5 gigahertz band, which has many more non-overlapping channels. One of the features of a radio wave is attenuation. As a radio signal travels away from its point of origin, the signal becomes weaker. If you've ever listened to the radio in your car as you've driven out of town, you've experienced attenuation firsthand. One of the drawbacks of higher frequency bands is that they have more attenuation and therefore cover less distance. Another major difference between protocols is how fast they can transmit data. This is measured in bits per second. This table compares several versions of the 802.11 protocol. It's not important to memorize this information, but it's right here if you ever need to refer back to it. Today, most wireless networks use one of these 2 protocols, 802.11n or 802.11ac. Some Wi-Fi networks, including many public networks, are unencrypted. Data moves through the network as plain text. This can be extremely dangerous, as eavesdroppers can easily intercept your signals and steal your information. Some public networks provide the illusion of security by using a captive portal, which makes users agree to some terms of service before accessing the network. Don't be fooled though, these networks are not secure. Fortunately, 802.11 contains security protocols which encrypt transmitted data. The first security protocol was called WEP, or Wired Equivalent Privacy. This protocol eventually became outdated and was replaced with WPA, or Wi-Fi Protected Access. This, in turn, was upgraded to WPA2, which is the most secure and is used by virtually all secure Wi-Fi networks today. In this video, we looked at the 802.11 wireless networking protocols. We compared several iterations of the protocols by looking at their frequency, attenuation, and speed. We also briefly discussed 3 encryption protocols, WEP, WPA, and WPA2.
All right. Okay, just to let you know briefly, in the IT and wireless realm, we've actually moved, well, not we, but we've actually moved to WPA3, which is even a higher encryption, and we're now using 802.11.ax and X, and primarily these are used for IoTs, Internet of Things devices. Because of all the smart devices out there now and all the communication, there are different protocols for them as well. And whenever we talk about standards and protocols, we're also talking about equipment to match those standards. So a lot of the manufacturers will match those standards because it's required by the government. Any question? I mean, that's a lot to absorb. You won't have to worry about memorizing bits per second and mapping that to the 802.11 standards or specific protocols or attenuation. So don't worry about that. Just know that whenever you hear the term 802.11.11, IEEE 802.11 is referring to wireless networking standards. That's a mouthful. All right. On to our last lab, 239. And we are going to go to our simulation area and learn how to connect a modem to our little workbench. All right. So in this lab, you're working on your small office, home office network, your SOHO network. You have just signed up for cable internet access for the network. Basically, you call CenturyLink or Cox or whomever. And the cable company has installed the line to your home and given you pre-configured modem for your network. So they just gave you all that you need. So you're going to use all the connections. If you remember our little simulation environment before, make all the connections to your for your modem slash router slash switch, etc. And then make sure you have internet access. So specifically, our task in this lab is to connect the components to make the internet connection, add the cable modem to the workspace, connect the modem to the WAN connection, wide area network, that's WAN, using an RG6 coaxial cable, and that's usually your cable. Yeah, some of the modems use cable, some of them use the old phone lines. Connect the computer to the cable modem using an Ethernet connection, and that's that RJ45 cable, looks like a fat phone cable to your computer. Add power, and then make sure we have a connection. All right. So I know you're all excited about this. Yay. We're back into our simulation area. We have our desktop and our monitor and keyboard, and we have our everything that we need to get started. And our computer's connected, but we have no internet. So let's go ahead and take our modem that was provided to us and just add it to our workbench, our workspace. Remember, just drag it till you get the little highlighted portion and then drop. And now it's in our workspace. All right, so turn it to the back. Those are our cables. Let's see. So following the instructions, connect the modem to the WAN connection using the RJ6 coaxial cable. RJ6. And here it is. So if we drag this into our environment, it gives us our connections here. So we want to connect the coax cable to the back of the modem. And then generally that big cable will plug into a coax port on your wall. I know you've all seen these type of cables. And so we want to connect the other end to our wall. And they take forever, and you have to line them up, make sure you're not bending that middle pin, etc. All right. So next, we want to connect the computer to the cable modem using a RJ45 Ethernet cable. All right. So we take that. Oh, wait. Let's flip the desktop around. Oops. I'm still getting used to this. So we want to connect one end to our network connection. RJ45 looks like that, right? And then we want to connect the other end to the wall. The red ones or the blue ones? Which one looks right? Well, if you try and plug it into one of those phone lines, it just won't fit. So, whoops, how did I get USB? All right. So we want to plug it into our RJ45 port. Yes, it is the red ones. If you remember, the ports don't match the cable color. All right. And now we want to give power to our, wait did we skip a step? Wait a minute. Now we connected that RJ45 to the PC, but that's not right. We should be connecting the cable, or what we did is we connected it to the wall, and basically that's not where it goes, right? Oops. Basically, we want to connect it to the modem. That's giving us our signal. So we want to unplug it from the wall and plug it into the modem, right? So we're going from the modem to our PC. All right. connect the computer to the cable modem using your, yes, we have to follow the directions. So now we need to give the modem some power. So we take our power cable, plug it into our modem. Stop that. Come on. And the other end, we want to plug into the wall. In we go. All right. So did you all get past all that? All right, so now we want to make sure to use our network internet settings to ensure that we have network connectivity. So go ahead and click on your desktop, your monitor, and your network internet settings. This icon here in your taskbar. We have a problem because it's saying that
Two RJ45 cables instead of using one to connect the computer to the modem.
all right, you guys are on top of it. So what do we, okay, we have this connected, RJ45 connected to our PC, right?
No, that one's a partial connection. And you have a partial connection with the one plugged into the computer.
Oh, we're all screwed up, aren't we? All right, so we want to take this connection, right? And plug it into our modem, correct? Right?
Yeah, that looks right.
Does that look right? So now we have the PC and the modem. And I wanted to do that to show you that whenever you see the nice little red marker on your network and security settings, that means you're not connected. So now, if you click on our home network is connected, and you click on network internet settings, the little indication is that your PC is connected to, essentially that represents your modem, and then this is the internet. Woohoo. Thank you, Stacy. Did everyone get that? Yes, yes, yes. Good job. You guys probably finished it well before I did. So if we scored a lab, yay, we have done a good job. Any questions? All right. Okay, my clock says 7:08. Adam is supposed to start at 7:10. Is Adam in our meeting? He may have been, oh, he's asking to join. Hello, Adam, how are you?
I'm well. How you doing?
Not too bad.
Sorry about that. I teach a class on Monday nights at Rio Salado,
Oh, okay.
and we get done. We're supposed to get done at 7, so I finished a little early, and so
All right.
I wanted to jump in when I could.
All right. So I just made you the host, so you can do your magic. And all of my students are here. They can't wait to get started.
All right. I'm going to take your word for that.
All right.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Dwight.
Yeah. You're welcome, Adam.
Yep. And this is the same one for every class, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'll keep this. I'll save this login, and then I'll come back on Wednesday. Be here a little earlier.
Okay. Not a problem. We just finished, so you're good.
Oh, okay. Good. No worries.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Take care.